David and Mephibosheth. David asked, "Is there anyone still left of the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" Now there was a servant of Saul's household named Ziba. They summoned him to appear before David. And the king said to him, "Are you Ziba? At your service?" He replied. The king asked, "Is there no one still alive from the house of Saul to whom I can show God's kindness?" Ziba answered the king, "There is still there is still a son of Jonathan. He is lame in both feet. Where is he?" The king asked. Ziba answered, "He is at the house of Machir, son of Amiel in Lodebar." So King David had him brought from the Lodebar, from the house of Machir, son of Amiel. When Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed down to pay him honor. David said, "Mephibosheth, at your service." He replied. "Don't be afraid," David said to him, "for I will surely show you a kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table." Mephibosheth bowed down and said, "What is your servant? What you should notice a dead dog like me?" Then the king summoned Ziba, Saul's steward, and said to him, "I have given your master's grandson everything that belonged to Saul and his family. You and your sons and your servant are to farm the land for him and bring the crops, so that your master's grandson may be provided you for. And Mephibosheth's grandson of your master will always eat at my table." And now Ziba and 15 sons and 20 servants. Then Ziba said to the king, "Your servant will do whatever my lord the king commands his servant to do." So Mephibosheth ate at David's table like one of the king's sons. Mephibosheth had a young son named Micah, and all the members of Ziba's household were servants of Mephibosheth, and Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem. Because he always ate at the king's table, he was lame in both feet. David defeated the Ammonites. In the course of time, the king of the Ammonites died, and his son Hanun succeeded him as king. David thought, "I will show kindness to Hanun, son of Nahash, just as his father showed kindness to me." So David sent delegation to express his sympathy to Hanun concerning his father. When David's men came to the land of the Ammonites, the Ammonite commanders said to Hanun their lord, "Do you think David's head honoring your father by sending envoys to you to express sympathy? Hasn't David sent them to you only to explore the city and spy it out and overthrow it?" So Hanun seized David's envoy, shaved off half of each man's beard, cut off their garment at the buttocks, and sent them away. When David was told about this, he sent messengers to meet the men, for they were greatly humiliated. The king said, Stay at Jericho till your birds have grown, and then come back." When the Ammonites realized that they had come obnoxious to David, they hired 20,000 Aramean foot soldiers from Beth Rehob and Joppa, as well as the king of Makkah with 1,000 men, and also 12,000 men from Tom. On hearing this, David sent Joab out with the entire army of fighting men. The Ammonites came out and drew up in battle formation at the entire of their city gate, while the Arameans of Joppa and Rehob and the men of Tom and Makkah were by themselves in the open country. Joab saw that there were battle lines in front of him and behind him. So he selected some of the best troops in Israel and deployed them against the Arameans. He put the rest of the men under the command of Abishai, his brother, and deployed them against the Ammonites. Joab said, "If the Arameans are too strong for me, then you are to come to my rescue. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will come to rescue you. Be strong, and let us fight bravely for our people and the cities of our God. The Lord will do what is good in his sight." Then Joab and the troops with him advanced to fight Arameans, and they fled before him. When the Ammonites realized that the Arameans were fleeing, they fled before Abishai went inside the city. So Joab returned from fighting the Ammonites and came to Jerusalem. After the Arameans saw they had been routed by Israel, they regrouped. Hadadezer Hadadezer had Arameans brought from the beyond the Euphrates River. They went to Helam with Shobak, the commander of Hadadezer's army, leading them. When David was told of this, he gathered all Israel, crossed the Jordan, and went to Helam. The Arameans formed their battle line in meet David and fought against him. But they fled before Israel, and David killed 700 of their charioteers and 40,000 of their foot soldiers. So also struck down Shobak, the commander of their army, and he died there. When all the kings who were vassals of Hadadezer saw that they had been routed by Israel, they made peace with the Israelites and became subject to them. So the Arameans were afraid to help the Ammonites anymore. David and Bathsheba. In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem. The evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent some to find out about her. The man said, "She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam and the wife of Uriah the Hittite." Bathsheba, she. Then David sent messenger to get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. Now she was purifying herself from her monthly uncleanness. But then she went back home. The woman conceived and sent word to David, saying, "I am pregnant." So David sent this word to Joab, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." And Joab sent him to David. When Uriah came to him, David asked him how Joab was, how the soldiers were, and how the war were going. Then David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." So Uriah left the palace, and the gift from the king was sent after him. But Uriah slept at the entrance to the palace with all his master's servants and did not go down to his house. David was told, Uriah did not go home. So he asked Uriah, "Haven't you just come from a military campaign? Why did you go home? Uriah said to David. The ark of Israel and Judah are staying in tent, and my commander Joab and my lord's men are camped in the open country. How could I go to my house to eat and drink and make to love my wife? As sure as you live, I will not do such a thing. But David said to him, Stay here one more day, and tomorrow I will send you back. So Uriah remained in Jerusalem and that day and the next. At David's invitation, he ate and drank with him, and David made him drunk. But in the evening, Uriah went out to sleep on his mat among his master's servants. He did not go home. In the morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it with Uriah. In it, he wrote, But Uriah, out in front where the fighting in pierced, then withdraw from him, so he will be struck down and die. So while Joab had the city under siege, he put Uriah at a place where he knew the strongest defenders were. When the men of the city came out and fought against Joab, some of the men in David's army fell. Moreover, Uriah the Hittite died. Joab sent David a full account of the battle. He instructs the messenger, when they have finished giving the king an account of the battle, the king's anger may flare up, and he may ask you, Why did you get too close to the city to fight? Didn't you know that they would shoot arrows from the well? Who killed Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal? Didn't woman drop an upper milestone on him from the well, so that he died in Tebez? They did. Why did you get so close to the wall? If he asks you this, then say to them, Moreover, your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead. The messenger set out, and when he arrived, he told David everything Joab had sent him to say. The messenger said to David, The men overpowered us and come out against us in the open, but we drove them back to the entrance of the city gate. Then the archers shot arrows at your servant from the wall, and some of the king's men died. Moreover, Your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead. David told the messenger, say this to Joab. Don't let this upset you. The sword devours one as well as another. Press the attack against the city and destroyed it. Say this to encourage Joab. When Uriah's wife heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him. After the time mourning was over, David had her brought to his house, and she became his wife and bore him a son. But the thing David had done displeased the Lord. Nathan rebukes David. The Lord sent Nathan to David. When he came to him, he said, there were two men in a certain town, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little old ram he had brought. He raised it, and he grew up with him and his children. He shared his food, drank from his cup, and 7 sat in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. Now a traveler came to the rich man, but the rich man refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal for the traveler who had come to him. Instead, he took the old lamb that belonged to the poor man and prepared it for the one who had come to him. David burned with anger against the man and said to Nathan, as sure as the Lord lives, the man who did this must die. He must pay for the ram 4 times over because he did such a thing and had no pity. Then Nathan said to David, you are the man. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, anointed king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave your master's house to you, and your master's wives into your arms. I gave you all Israel and Judah, and if all this had been too little, I would have given you even more. Why you did despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes, you struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Now, therefore, the sword will never depart from your house, because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. This is that the Lord says, out of your own household I am going to bring calamity on you. Before your very eyes I will take your wives and give them to one who is close to you. And he will sleep with your wives in broad daylight. You did it in secret, but I will do these things in broad daylight before all Israel. Then David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. Nathan replied, the Lord has taken away your sin. You are not going to die, but because by doing this you have shown utter contempt for the Lord, the son born to you will die. After Nathan had gone home, the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife had bore to David, and he came ill. David pleaded with God for the child. He fasted and spent the night lying in sackcloth on the ground. The elder of his household stood beside him to get him up from the ground, but he refused, and he would not eat any food with them. On the seventh day, the child died. David's attendants were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for the thought, while the child was still living, he wouldn't listen to us when he spoke to him. How can we now tell him the child is dead? He made something desperate. David noticed that his attendants were whispering among themselves, and he realized the child was dead. Is the child dead? He asked. Yes, they replied. He's dead. Then David got up from the ground after he had washed foot on lotion and changed his clothes. He went to the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he went to his own house, and at his request they served him food, and he ate. His attendants asked him, why you are acting this way? And while the child was alive, you fasted and wept, but now that the child is dead, you get up and eat. He answered, While the child was still alive, I fasted and wept. I thought, who knows, the Lord may be gracious to me and let the child alive. But now that he is dead, why should I go on fasting? Can I bring him back again? I will go to him, but he will not return to me. Then David comforted his wife Bathsheba, and he went to her and made love to her. She gave birth to a son, and they named him Solomon. The Lord loves him, and because the Lord loved him, he sent word through Nathan the prophet to name him Jedidiah. Meanwhile, Joab fought against Rabbah of the Ammonites and captured the royal citadel. Joab then sent messenger to David, saying, I have fought against Rabbah and taken its water supply. Now muster the rest of the troop and besiege the city and capture it. Otherwise, I will take the city and it will be named after me. So David mustered entire army and went attacked and captured it. David took the crown from their king's head, and it was placed on his own head. It weighed a talent of gold, and it was set with precious stones. David took a great quantity of plunder from the city and brought out the people who were there, consigning them to labor with with iron picks and axes, and he made them work at brick making. David did this to all the Ammonite towns. Then he and his entire army returned to Jerusalem. Ammon and Tab. In the course of time, Anon, son of David, fell in love with Tamar, the beautiful sister of Absalom, son of David. Anon became so obsessed with his sister Tamar that he made himself ill. She was a virgin, and It seemed impossible for him to do anything to her. But Anon had an advisor named Jonadab, son of Shimea, David's brother. Jonadab was a very shrewd man. He asked Ammon, why do you, the king's son, look so haggard morning after morning? Won't you tell, won't you tell me? Anon said to him, I'm in love with Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. Go to bed and pretend to be ill, Jonadab said. When your father comes to see you, say to him, I would like my sister Tamar to come and give me something to eat. Let her prepare the food in my sight, so may we watch her and then eat it from her hands. So Anon lay down and pretended to be ill. And when the king came to see him, Anon said to him, I would like my sister Tamar to come and make some special bread in my sight, so I may eat from her hands. David sent word to Tamar at the palace, Go to the house of your brother Anon and prepare some food for him. So Tamar went to the house of her brother Anon, who was lying down. She took some dough, kneaded it, made the bread in his sight, and baked it. Then she took the pan and served him the bread, but he refused to eat. Go to bed and send everyone out of here, Anon said. So everyone left him. The Anon said to Tamar, Then Anon said to Tamar, Bring the food here into my bedrooms, so I may eat from your hands. And Tamar took the bread she had prepared and brought it to her brother Anon in his bedroom. But when she took it to him to eat, the grabbed her and said, Come to bed with me, my sister. No, my brother. She said to him, Don't force me. Such a thing should not be done in Israel. Don't do this wicked thing. What about me? When could I get rid my disgrace? When and what about you? You would be like one of the wicked poor in Israel. Please speak to the king. He will not keep me from being married to you. But he refused to listen to her, and since he was very stronger than she. He left her. Then Amnon hated her with intense hatred. In fact, he hated her more than he had loved her. Amnon said to her, "Get up and get out." "No," she said to him, "sending me away would be greater wrong than what you have already done to me." But he refused to listen to her. He called his personal servant and said, "Get this woman out and sight of my sight." Put the door after her. So his servant put her out and bolted the door after her. She was wearing an ornate robe, for these were the kind of garments the virgin daughters of the king wore. Tamar put ashes on her head and tore the ornate robe she was wearing. He put the hat on her head and went away, whipped around as she went. Her brother Absalom said to her, "Has the Anon, your brother, be with you? Be quiet for now, my sister. He is your brother. Don't take these things to heart." And Tamar arrived in her brother Absalom's house, a desolate woman. When King David heard all this, he was furious, and Absalom never said a word to Amnon, either good or bad. He hated Amnon because he had disgraced his sister Tamar. Absalom kills Amnon. 2 years later, when Absalom's shepherds were at Baal Hajar near the border of Ephraim, he invited all the king's sons to come there. Absalom went to the king and said, "Your servant has had shearers come. Will the king and his attendant please join me?" "No, my son," the king replied. "All of us should not go. We would only be a burden to you." Although Absalom urged him, he still refused to go, but gave him his blessing. Then Absalom said, "If not, please let my brother Amnon come with us." The king asked him, "Why should he go with you?" Absalom urged him. So he sent with him Amnon and the rest of the king's sons. Absalom ordered his men, "Listen, when Amnon is in high spirits from the drinking wine, and I say to you, strike Amnon down, then kill him. Don't be afraid. Haven't I given you this order? be strong and brave. So Absalom's men did Amnon what Absalom had ordered. Then all the king's sons got up, mounted their mules, and fled. While they were on the way, the report came to David. Absalom has struck down, and the king's sons, not one of them is left. The king stood up, tore his clothes, and lay down on the ground. And all his attendants stood by with their clothes torn, but Jonadab, son of Shimeah, David's brother, said, "My lord should not think that like killed all the princes. Only Amnon is dead." This has been Absalom's express intention ever since the day Amnon raped his sister Tamar. My lord, the king should not be concerned about the report that all the king's sons are dead. Only Amnon is dead. Meanwhile, Absalom had fled. Now the man standing watching looked up and saw many people on the road west of him. Coming down the side of the hill, the watchman went and told the king, "I see men in the direction of Horonaim, on the side of the hill." Jonadab said to the king, "See, the king's son has come. It has happened just as your servant said." As he finished speaking, the king's son came in, wailing loudly. The king too, and all the attendants wept very bitterly. Absalom fled and went to Talmai, son of Ammihud, the king of Geshur, but King David mourned many days for his son. After Absalom fled and went to Geshur, he stayed there 3 years, and King David longed to go to Absalom, for his was concerned concerning Amnon's death.